Solar Weather Report for February 2021. The solar weather report for the week of February 13th deals with a relatively calm sun, and yet we see activity in our geomagnetic field. How come? Well, it all depends on a very important parameter for solar weather, the solar wind, and how it belatedly impacts Earth. But first, the current numbers. Solar Flux Index, SFI, is 72. Planetary Index, K sub P, is 1. A Index is 5, and the sunspot number is absolutely 0. That's right, currently we're not seeing any sunspots in the solar disk. The absence of sunspots simply implies that there are no high magnetic zones in the sun at this time. These magnetic field zones are necessary for the generation of solar flares. As radio amateurs, we want sunspots, so hopefully some will appear soon. What we did see are a pair of thin coronal holes, number 25 and number 26. Coronal holes are areas of the solar disk that emit charged particles, such as electrons and protons, amongst others. The interplanetary current formed by this river of charged particles is called the solar wind. It's expected that the solar wind coming from the coronal holes number 25 and 26 will reach Earth next week. Now, how does the solar wind affect radio operations? Well, it depends on the orientation and velocity as the solar wind hits the Earth. If the magnetic component brought along by the particles of the wind is in the z direction, and it points quote-unquote towards the south, then we expect that the energy in the solar wind will couple strongly to our geomagnetic field. This strong coupling could result in an increase of our planetary index, K sub P. Is this a bad thing? Well, it can be. Recall that if K sub P climbs above 4, then we enter into the realm of solar storms, which can affect negatively radio communications. Currently, the K sub P index is 1, so it's worth keeping an eye out for it. We also note in passing that the A index has a value of 5, since it's an average quantity, and the K sub P index of the last few days has been a bit high. So in summary, the solar wind is a very important variable that affects our solar weather. Consequently, having a sun with relatively low solar activity doesn't necessarily mean that we can't make radio contacts. Proof of this is the band openings that we've been seeing these days in the 15-meter and 17-meter bands to South America and Europe. Well, 73, and hope you make good contacts.